Good evening, and welcome to Carpe Diem. I'm not sure if you have followed any of the previous episodes, but I am John Biggs, and I have, in my mind, information to communicate. So, my goal of tonight's episode is to go through the cabinet members of the Trump administration. And I do think it's really sort of fascinating to watch this. So I will just go through this member by member. So, VP, JD Vance. All right. What I see with him, he's pompous, he's arrogant, and he's now emboldened by being the vice president for Trump. But in reality, I hate to say this, but he wrote the book, Hillbilly Elegy. So he is really sort of a hillbilly. Is he going to run in 28? Who knows? I don't think he could win, but that's just my personal opinion. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. Well, that's interesting. So he ran against Trump previously. He's sort of been out of, he has not really had that much to say. I sort of consider him sort of a ringer in this cabinet. He's not really talking a lot. Is he responsible for, and I consider this a great win in Israel. Is he responsible for that for Trump? I don't know. But the Secretary of State really politically has been, well, again, a political appointment. So when I look at Secretary of State, I look at people like Kissinger or Brzezinski, but has been a political appointment. And Obama, we didn't give it, but he gave it to Hillary in part, I think, in thanks for not running against him. So it's an unusual position, but I would hope it would be someone like Kissinger or Brzezinski, who is very familiar with international relations. Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent. He's really an interesting individual. Again, he has not really spoken much, and he stayed out of the fray. And let's face it, that has been a political appointment as well. So, but what I would look at is, are you an expert in Treasury securities? Because if you look at my previous episode, we're going to have to float 1.5 to 2 trillion in new Treasury securities. That's new. That's not the securities that are maturing in the next year. So I would really have preferred someone, he's a hedge fund guy, and I don't get this, he worked for Soros for a long time, and Soros is apparently a huge enemy of this administration. So that's sort of a weird twist that I don't know about. But he has not been proven yet. So he'll be proven as we have to issue all these new Treasury securities. And the Fed chair is going to come up in, 26. So that will be part of it as well. Pete Hegseth. Okay, well, it's hard for me to talk much about this. He did 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then he was a Fox News host. Do you realize that the Defense Department has almost $3 million employees. 3 million. I'm talking about military people in the Department of Defense. He has absolutely no management experience. None. And I guess he did a couple of things in nonprofits that were not successful. I've done this. Management experience it's everything. And he does not have that. So we'll see. But if you look at that generals and admirals meeting that he did, that was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. And why they put that on TV, I don't know. If you want to tell everybody you're fat, tell them in private, but don't do it on national television. It makes no sense. Okay, so we go on to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Well, if you look at these pictures, and I did this, I had pictures for all my executives. I look at that picture and I say, sorry to say, trouble in River City. I just look at how she presents herself, and that's a problem. But if you were seeing her presentation to the Senate committee, she was really put in a very difficult position because she knew she didn't want to lie, and she knew the answers to the questions. So what did she do? She turned it around and said, well, you're all these senators, you're the problem. She never answered a question, and that, in my mind, is completely in fear of, she wants to support Trump, and she can't without lying, and she doesn't want to lie. That's really my take on her entire testimony. Doug Burgum, Secretary of the Interior, I don't know much about him, but I do know that we have a lot of federal lands, and I guess we're going to open them up for development and drill, baby, drill. Well, that will give us some money. As I said in the previous episode, we're trying to balance the budget, but on whose shoulders is that going to be? And that's a big question. Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture. I haven't really investigated all of these individuals, but all I can say is agriculture is doing terrible with all the tariffs and everything that's going on. I have no idea if she has any say in any of it. I don't know. Howard Lubnick. Okay, he's an interesting character. He was in charge of Cantor Fitzgerald for quite a while. And if you know about the 9/11 attacks, Cantor Fitzgerald really took a direct attack. Sandler O'Neill was, I think, right up on those floors. And I guess he helped resurrect that firm. But he is, I suppose, in charge of all these tariffs and the Trump tariffs, which, in my mind, are quite, what would you call it? Eclectic, or does not seem to be any kind of rhyme or reason to them other than who does Donald Trump like today or tomorrow, and who is he going to please, so to speak. So let's move on. Secretary of Labor, I do not know anything about her, but I will say the BLS, it reports to her, and when Trump wanted to fire the BLS individual, she was not involved at all, so I just don't think she has much to say. RFK Jr. Okay, well, the whole family, he's a nut. The guy's crazy. He kills animals in Central Park and buries them and has worms going in his brain. He's an anti-vaxxer. His entire family has disavowed him and said he's a certifiable nut. Well, I think it's pretty true. We should accept that. Secretary of HUD. Well, I don't think HUD under the current administration is going to go very far. They've just gotten rid of their fair housing department. Based on my background, I'm not sad about that, but I don't really know under this administration where that's going to go. Secretary of Transportation, he's an interesting fellow. My feeling is he is the administrator of NASA, but also Secretary of Transportation. And that is big. That does a lot. Department of Transportation, FAA, air traffic controllers. Here's the latest. It just came out. I guess for truckers in California to get commercial driver's licenses. And I did not know this. I thought this was state, but apparently that's federal. And again, they don't want minorities to have commercial driver's licenses, so they're trying to remove a lot of money from California because of that. Chris Wright, Secretary of Energy, he's a fracker. So will we have any, and let's face it, is battery-operated cars better? No, not yet. But should we be trying to do this to help with the environment? Yes, we should. And my feeling is that's going to be going really backwards, like digging for coal, fracking, and not really moving forward in the current world. Okay, Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. That's an interesting one. She's part of the World Federation of Wrestlers. That's really her background. I think she ran against Kelly Loeffler as a Republican and lost a couple of times, but she has absolutely no experience as an educator. And so what is she doing? Supporting Trump and trying to change our universities to teach conservative values. Okay, well, you can teach both values, but that is really what she's there for. Doug Collins, Secretary of Veterans Affairs. I don't know anything about him, but they've done a lot of cuts to the VA. Will our veterans get good health care? I don't know. Hard to say. Kristi Noem. All right. Well, she's a character. I have a hard time getting by that she shot her dog, but okay. Why don't you put your dog down peacefully versus blowing it away? And it sort of seems like she wants to fight. And I can go in later about all the things that are happening in immigration that are so wrong, so, in my mind, anti-American. And that is just a huge issue. I can't even, that would be a whole thing. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. You know, she's been sort of quiet, and I heard that she was sort of on the outs with Trump after the Signalgate or whatever, but she has no intelligence experience. Jameson Greer, U.S. Trade Representative, I assume he's up there working above. Kelly Loeffler, Lee Zedlin, EPA. I'm not even sure we'll have an EPA at the end of this. So let's get to the bottom of this, which I sort of went through that briefly. But when I go to the bottom, Russell Vought, he's one of the architects of 2025. And he is the individual with his shutdown that's saying, let's get rid of all these people. Okay, great. Well, we're not going to have anybody to do anything, but okay. But then I get to the two bottom right individuals. And Susie Wiles, I do not know her reputation, but do you realize she has not come out in public at all? You do not hear a word from her. You hear nothing. But Stephen Miller is her deputy chief, and you certainly hear a lot from him. So my conclusion in looking at these individuals is, number one, they are trained very well. I've done this for a while. I could not possibly manage all of these individuals and know what they're doing every day. It's an impossibility. There's no way Trump knows that. But when I see them, they seem to be very trained. What I say by trained is, do you see them standing up and they're all like this? No brushing of your hair, no. That is training. And is that from visual training? Probably. But if you look at Stephen Miller, and so you look at these presentations that this cabinet makes in front of Congress, I fully believe it's Stephen Miller that's driving this. Someone has to be driving this group and telling them how to behave, how to stand, how to talk. And I have to say, they're pretty much intact so far. So if you look at the first Trump administration, I keep waiting for someone to break. What I mean by break is to say, well, you've done things that I can't do, and I don't agree with it. And so far, well, we're only talking a year, that has not happened. So what Donald Trump has done is surrounded himself with a group of people that will do nothing but support him. And so he's got protection around him. Okay, so that was my goal of this episode. And I will continue to say we have votes coming this November in 25. We have midterms in 26. The way to fix this is to say we don't like it, and we're going to vote it out. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I will be actually starting to interview people, and I will be actually in Paris in the month of January, and I will be in Rome for the month of February. And my goal with that is to interview people from other countries to see how do they think about what's going on. Because this, revolution of conservatism is not just focused in the United States. It's in France, it's in Germany. And how do the public in those countries think about it? So thank you very much. And I will have a interview coming up probably next month, and then I'll give you more details about the trip to Europe. Thank you.